Have you ever wanted to tell someone what you are doing right now in Spanish, like I'm cooking, or I'm studying, or I'm watching Netflix? Well, by the end of this episode, you'll be able to describe what you are doing in real time, just like a native speaker in español.
Welcome to Spanglish Friends, the podcast for true beginner Spanish learners.
Hola amigos, I'm Val, your experienced Spanish teacher and co-host from Venezuela.
And I'm Em, your Australian co-host who's been learning Spanish for 10 years.
We'll help you get confident listening and speaking beginner Spanish with content you can actually use in real-life conversations.
Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and follow us on socials at Spanglish_friends. Let's get started.
Comencemos. Muy buenos días, amigos. Welcome back to episode 35, episodio 35 of the Spanglish Friends.
Bienvenidos de nuevo. Welcome back, friends. Today's episode is super practical because we are learning how to talk about what you're doing right now in español.
Exactly. In English, we use ing words to describe what we are currently doing, like I'm eating or she's reading, cooking, cleaning, so many ing words. In Spanish, we do the same thing, but with a slightly different structure. And once you see the pattern, it's actually really easy to apply.
Okay, we're learning ing words. As always, we're going to take it step by step with our 3 guiding preguntas of the day,
which are: Pregunta número 1. ¿Cómo puedo decir lo que estoy haciendo ahora mismo en español? How can I say what I am doing right now in Spanish? Pregunta número 2. ¿Cómo formar los verbos en presente continuo? How to form present continuous verbs in Spanish? And last one, pregunta número 3. ¿Cómo puedo usar esto en frases de la vida real? How can I use this new structure in real-life sentences?
Nice, Profe Val. And before we dive into the new learnings of today, let's warm up your listening skills, friends, with a mini conversation, una conversación pequeña. Listen carefully and try to identify what you think are the ing words in Spanish, the doing verbs that are used between Val and I to describe what we are currently doing.
One clue, amigos, is that you might hear words ending in ando or yendo. Try listen out for them and try to figure it out what they mean.
Okay, ready, Profe Val?
Amiga, sí. Comencemos. En buenos días, ¿estás ocupada?
Sí, Val.
¿Qué estás haciendo?
Estoy haciendo el almuerzo. Estoy cocinando arroz. ¿Necesitas ayuda con algo?
Sí. Ahora estoy trabajando, pero hay una tarea que no estoy entendiendo.
Ok. Voy a ayudarte lo antes posible. Did you catch some of these new ing words, Spanglish friends? Things like estoy haciendo, estoy cocinando, or estoy entendiendo. These are our new doing words, ing words in Spanish, used to describe what you or someone else is doing right now in the present.
Exactly. All of those are examples of what we call presente continuo in Spanish. Normally in English is the present continuous, the same thing as words ending in ing in English. In 10 minutes, amigo, you'll be able to understand and use them in Spanish.
Woohoo! Let's dive into it with pregunta número 1. How do I say what I'm doing right now en español?
To say what you are doing at this very moment, amiga, you use a simple structure, the verb estar plus verbo en gerundio. That means the verb to be plus our ing form. And we are going to see how it changed depending on who is doing the action. For example, if I want to say I am, this would be yo estoy. You are, tú estás. He is, él está. She is, ella está. And our formal you, usted está. Now we are. Nosotros estamos. They are. Ellos están. Or you all are. Ustedes están.
Nice recap of the verb estar there, Profe Val. And what you need to do then, once you have the right conjugation of estar, is to add the main verb in its gerundio form, okay? What we call in English adding the ing word. This brings us nicely to our pregunta número dos. How do we form ing words in Spanish? This present continuous structure, Profe Val.
There are three main groups of verbs as we learned in early episodes. We have verbs ending AR, AR, ER, ER, and ER, IR verbs. To form the gerund, drop the ending to give you the stem of the verb and add the right ending. For example, the stem of the verb hablar is HABL. We have removed the AR. Then you can add the ending to make the gerund form. For AR verbs, you need to add ando, ANDO. For ER and IR verbs, you need to add yendo, IENDO.
Let's hear some common examples, friends. So the verb estudiar, which means to study, would become estudiando. I am studying. I've added ando to estudiar, right? The stem. Comer becomes comiendo. I'm adding the indo because it's an er verb. Beber becomes bebiendo. It's an er verb, so I'm replacing the er with yendo. Bebiendo. Vivir becomes viviendo, living, or escribir, to write, becomes escribiendo.
Awesome. Now we have this gerund form. We can combine with the verb estar to say like, I am doing something. Let's get sentences like, I'm studying, estoy estudiando. You are eating, estás comiendo. She is writing, está escribiendo.
See, friends, it's not that bad after all. Very logical. But of course, in Spanish, there's always a few irregular verbs that change slightly in the middle when we're adding this ing form.
Don't worry, there are only a few. Some common ones to learn include leer. It's going to change and become leyendo. This means reading. Ir, the verb to go, becomes yendo, to say going. Dormir, to sleep, becomes durmiendo, to say sleeping. And decir becomes diciendo, to say to tell. You're saying or telling something. Ando, yendo, ando, yendo.
So the key thing here to recognize, friends, is that there are some verbs with the ing form that are just a little bit irregular. If I say estoy leyendo un libro, that means I'm reading a book. And if I say estoy durmiendo, it means I'm sleeping.
Exactly. And that is going to say that you are doing this right now. Easy, right? Once you get the rhythm, you'll start to recognize this everywhere. In songs, movie, conversations, you'll hear estoy pensando, estoy trabajando, I'm working, están bailando, they are dancing. It's everywhere.
That's right. Now let's hit them with the final question of the day, Profe Val. Pregunta número tres. How can we use Spanish ing words in real life? We know grammar is one thing, but actually to be able to use it is where the magic happens.
Absolutely. You can use this to describe what you are doing, what someone else is doing, or even ask about what's happening. You need to know, friends, that this structure is just used exclusively for describing what you are doing right now at this very moment. You can't use it for things you are going to do tomorrow or next week, for example. For these scenarios, you should use the present tense with the time markers like mañana trabajo, tomorrow I work. It will literally translate it. So here are some examples. If you're cooking right now, you can say estoy cocinando. If you're working right now, you could say estoy trabajando. If you're learning Spanish right now, which probably you are, you can say estoy aprendiendo español. If you're watching a movie, estoy viendo una película. Or if you're walking to work while listening to this podcast, you can say estoy caminando al trabajo.
Nice. And that's a good call out, Val, because there can be a common mistake made here by native English speakers, confusing estoy hablando with hablo. Okay, they both come from the verb hablar, but they don't mean the same thing. If I say hablo español, this means that I speak Spanish, right? I speak Spanish like in general. But if I say estoy hablando español, that means I'm speaking Spanish right now. Like literally, I'm talking to Val and I'm speaking Spanish. Estoy hablando español.
Exactly. One is about a general fact, the other is about what's happening at the moment. You can make so many natural sentences with those. For example, estoy bailando con mis amigos. I'm dancing with my friends. Estoy escuchando música. I'm listening to music. Estoy trabajando desde casa. I'm working from home.
Nice. You could say, estoy tomando un café. I'm drinking a coffee. Estoy escribiendo un correo. I am writing an email. Or estoy cocinando pasta. I am cooking pasta. There are so many thousands of sentences you could make, friends, now with these ing words. It's just that easy. Pick any action and plug it in with ando or yendo. We've done it, friends. We've learnt all the new skills we need to unpack the mini conversation Val and I had earlier, line by line, so you can now piece together in your mind how this new structure works. Vamos, Val.
First thing I asked M was, ¿Estás ocupada? This is useful. This means, are you busy? ¿Estás ocupada? Or you could also say, ¿Estás ocupado? If you are talking to a man.
That's right. And I replied, sí, Val, like, yes, I am busy right now. But obviously, loving to hear from my amiga.
So I asked her, ¿Qué estás haciendo? Breaking the sentence down. ¿Qué, what, estás, are you haciendo, doing? Here, estás is the you form of estar, to be, and haciendo comes from hacer, which means to do or to make something.
So that was our first ing word, haciendo. Very useful. And I responded saying, estoy haciendo el almuerzo. I am making lunch. Estoy cocinando arroz. I am cooking, another ing word. Cocinar is the verb to cook. Arroz, I'm cooking rice. Then I asked her if she needed help by saying, ¿necesitas ayuda con algo? Basically, what I asked there is, do you need, necesitas ayuda, help con algo, with something?
So I said, sí. Ahora estoy trabajando. I explained to her what I'm doing right now by saying, ahora, now, estoy trabajando. I'm working. But hay una tarea, there is a task que no estoy entendiendo, that I'm not understanding or I don't get it. Trabajar means to work. So I said trabajando, I'm working. And entender means to understand or to get something. So if I'm saying no estoy entendiendo means I don't understand, I'm not understanding this, I don't get it.
Super handy for beginner Spanish learners. No estoy entendiendo. I'm not understanding. Finally, I wanted to help Val as soon as I could. So I used a common phrase that could be translated as soon as possible. So I said, I'm going to ayudarte, to help you. Ayudar is to help and te is to directing the action towards Val. I'm going to help you. Then I added the phrase lo antes posible. That means as soon as possible. Now, this structure of ir a más a verb is a topic we learnt back in episode 31, which we highly recommend you listen to if you haven't already.
How great that in that little chat we used estoy haciendo, estoy cocinando, estoy trabajando, and estoy entendiendo. All great examples of estar plus gerundio in action. Muy bien, amigos. You're officially learning to sound more like a native. Let's finish our 3 aprendizajes claves, the 3 key learning you got today. Write them down so they stick in your mind.
Yes, firstly, amigos, you learnt how to say what you're doing right now in español.
Sí, you did this using the structure estar más gerundio. Estar plus the ing form of the verb. Remember that estar is to be.
Second, you learnt how to form those ing words in Spanish, the gerundio in Spanish.
You learned that for AR verbs, you add ando. For ER and IR verbs, you add yendo. For example, hablar, to speak, hablando, speaking. Comer, to eat, comiendo, becomes eating. And vivir, to live, becomes viviendo. Don't forget the few irregulars like leyendo, reading, durmiendo, sleeping, and yendo, going.
And the last thing you learnt, friends, was how to use ing words in real sentences about daily life.
That's right. You learn sentences like estoy trabajando. I'm working. Estoy aprendiendo español. I'm learning Spanish. Or estoy haciendo la cena. I'm making the dinner. To describing what you're doing right now.
This is so awesome, Profe Val. But you know what's even more awesome is our Spanglish friend of the week. And this week's shout out goes to Silvano, who commented on our TikTok from episode 32, where we asked you, what are some other ways you could ask someone, what are your plans for the weekend?
Yes, and he shared another great way that native speakers ask, which is, ¿qué hay para el fin de? ¿Qué hay para el fin de? Which is like, what is there for the weekend? Thank you for sharing this, Silvano.
¿Qué hay para el fin de? I'm going to start using this. It sounds supernatural. If you want to shout out friends in an upcoming episode, get involved right now in our reto of the week, our challenge of the week, putting your newfound skills into practice.
This week, we want you to write one sentence in Spanish using estar plus the gerundio to say what you're doing right now. For example, you could say, estoy aprendiendo español. Estoy cocinando pasta. Estoy viendo una película.
Post your sentence right now in the comments and we'll shout out some of our favorites in the next episode. We love seeing you practice.
Speaking of next episode, spoiler alert. Next episode, in episodio 36, we are going to be diving into the most common question native speakers might ask you using the new structure we learned today.
Ooh.
Like, what are you doing right now? How long have you been learning Spanish? How do you recognize these sentences and respond naturally? Stay tuned, and we'll help you build upon your new skills from today.
And remember, amigos, practice makes progress, not perfection. Ciao, amigos.
Hasta luego, amigos. Until next time. Thanks for listening to Spanglish Friends. We're both so proud of the time you're investing to level up your Spanish skills.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, follow us, leave a rating, or tell a friend about the show. It helps our awesome community grow.
Join fellow beginner Spanish learners by following us on Instagram and TikTok at Spanglish_friends.
Congratulations on taking another step in your Spanish learning journey.
Hasta la próxima, amigos.